Ever have one of those projects that just takes up space in your brain until you finally get around to doing it? Well, for me, one of those projects has been notebooks or journals, whichever you want to call them. And 5 years ago, I made this design and sold them at a market. Now, it is pretty primitive, as you can see. These were individually cut on the table saw. I drilled holes on the drill press and cut the designs on the scroll saw all by hand. And then I added some colorful paper to make the designs pop, and then inserted these little binder rings and proudly displayed them on my shelf. Oh boy, have I come a long way. Now, I had three designs. I had this paw print, I had a maple leaf, like this one right here, and then a cross, which I don't have any more of. I made 20 of them total, and this is all I have left, just these two. So they sold really well, but they lacked the sophisticated look I was trying to achieve with my brand. So I stopped making them until I had the chance and the tools to make what I was envisioning in my mind. So fast forward 5 years, and today we are going to make a new and improved version. So welcome to part 4 of my Made to Sell series, where I show you how to take simple designs and turn them into profitable product lines. So today we are going to make journals 3 ways, using 3 different materials and 3 different price points. So if you missed any of the other projects in the Made to Sell series, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description and in the pinned comments. And without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, first up is the wooden journals or notebooks. I'm just gonna use those terms interchangeably throughout this video. But I just picked up some pre-finished plywood from GS2 Awards, and I thought this would be the perfect project to try out this new material. What I love about wooden notebooks is they are unique. They stand out next to those, store-bought versions of journals, and you don't see many people carrying around a wooden notebook, so inherently they are going to be eye-catching. It's also really easy to add some fun designs, a pattern, a cutout pattern, or maybe an engraving or some personalization, of course, make it totally custom. And you can still put a colored piece of paper behind it to make the design pop, or you could add some fun pattern ply from Smoky Hill Designs to give it a completely new upscale look. Now, the best part about this design is it's refillable. So by adding these rings and some loose leaf paper, customers can just refill the journal when they run out of paper and continue using the notebook. Now, to make these, you will want to pick up some 3-ring binder rings and some loose leaf paper. Now, the important thing about this is you want to make sure that the holes on the paper line up with the holes on the rings. And I'll leave a link to the description. I'll leave a link in the description for all of the products that I'm using today. Now, you want to use calipers to, 1, determine your hole size, and then determine the spacing between the holes so that you can put that in your design software and make the journal covers. Now, I have already done all the hard work for you. I have already figured out these measurements. So I've got a laser ready file on my website that you can pick up and just, add your own design and get to cutting. Now, once you cut it out, it's super simple to assemble. You're just going to line up obviously the holes with the back and the paper, and then the holes on the front. You just want to, these rings pop open very easily. You're just going to open them up and thread them through the holes. And so this is a super easy peasy project. This is great for batching. It's very easy to customize or personalize. And like you saw, it's very quick to put together, which makes it extremely profitable. Okay, next up is leather. So I have a leather supplier relatively close to me, and I stopped by and picked up this hide. It's 3 to 4 ounce leather, and I thought this would be great to do kind of a higher end journal. Now, quick PSA. If you are going to use leather on your laser, it needs to be veg tan, not chrome tan leather. So the difference between veg tan versus chrome tan is just the way that it's finished and dyed at the factory. So veg tan uses natural plant-based tannins, while chrome tan uses chemicals, and those chemicals can release toxic fumes, and they can also damage your laser. So when it comes to leather on your laser, you definitely want to stick with veg tan. So this is a veg tan hide, like I mentioned, and it is natural. I opted to go with a natural version because my supplier only had like this really kind of ugly brown and black veg tan option. So I figured I would just bring it home, dye it myself. I picked up some dye at the leather store. And you could leave it natural, which would produce this gorgeous patina over time. But I wanted to punch this up a little bit, add some color. So I haven't decided what color I'm going to use, maybe copper, maybe turquoise, but we'll see. Now you can dye this before you put it on the laser, or you can do it after. It really doesn't matter. But because I have a whole hide, I am actually going to just cut off a piece, put it on the laser, go ahead and get it cut out, and then I'll dye it when it comes off the laser. For the leather version, we are actually going to do something a little bit different. We're going to use these pre-made paper inserts, which are called signatures. And we're going to use some elastic string to connect them to the leather, which will also serve as a loop closure to hold the whole journal closed. And for this one, I think I'm actually going to make the panel just a little bit wider. So it's actually going to have a flap that covers the signature, and it will be completely enclosed within the journal cover. Now I do have a ready-made laser file, or a laser ready file for you on my website. So if you're interested in making this for yourself, you can certainly do that. I like to have rounded corners on my signatures. So I just picked up this punch, and it's got like small, medium, large. You can just insert where is it? Oh yeah, right here. So you can just insert the edges of the pages and then punch them off and have some rounded corners. It just keeps the edges a little cleaner and keeps them from, kind of tearing up a little bit. Okay, I need a piece at least 15 by 9.5. So I'm just going to use my scratch awl to make a line so I can cut it out. Now I've got some leather cutting scissors, so I'm just going to loosely cut around the perimeter. I'm not looking forward to putting this on the laser and getting that stinky skin lasering smell in here, but you got to do what you got to do for your projects. You know what I'm saying? Now you see this like natural edge. Now you could leave that just natural and cut your leather in such a way so that when it folds over, you've got something like this. You've got like this cool like natural edge. So I've got some examples of that I'll show you, but for this one, we're just gonna have a clean edge. Now these are some options I did with just kind of like the raw natural edge of the leather. You can kind of see it's got the branding from the cow on here. So you can totally leave a raw natural edge. Same thing with this one. Raw natural edge. So just some options for you. Now I'm going to make sure, I don't know if you can see this line, I'm going to make sure that when I frame it, that my entire journal is going to fall within these score lines, because I obviously don't want this on the front of my journal cover. Okay, that's tight. I should have cut it a little bit bigger, but it's going to work. We hope. Okay, let's get it cut out. So we've got some charring along the edges, so I am just going to use a magic eraser to clean that up. Now it's going to get the leather wet, but so you're going to need to let it dry before you put dye on it, but once it's dry, it should be totally fine. Okay, my leather's dry and all of the scorching that got on the front of the leather is gone with the magic eraser. So I am going to use this copper colored, it's EcoFlow leather dye. And you can use those little wool daubers that you can get at the leather store, but I've got a big enough surface that I need to cover, so I am not going to use a small wool dauber. I am going to use a finishing pad, which is kind of like a Scotch-Brite pad, but it's for finishing. It shouldn't scratch the leather, but we'll see. So I am going to dye the top grain as well as the flesh side, or is this the flesh side and this? Anyway, the suede side and the top grain, I am going to hit both of them with this copper color. And I'm just going to do swirling patterns, just so there's not any streaks. Now, for all of you leather experts out there, don't come after me in the comments. I do not work with leather very often, so especially real leather. So you're going to have to forgive my technique. Okay, now let's flip it over. Ooh. You can kind of see my fingerprints where I was holding it down, so I'm just going to try to cover those up. All right, now let's flip it over and do the other side. Okay, so after your leather is dry, you want to use some sort of finishing agent like Resolene or satin sheen to protect it. You don't want any of the dye rubbing off and getting onto any of the signatures or anything, any surfaces that you might put this on. Now, mine is dry to the touch, but it's not fully cured yet, so I have not applied any finishing agent. But I wanted to walk you through how to assemble these. So you are going to take some 2mm elastic cord and you're going to string them through the holes, and there's a specific way you need to do it, and I'll show you in just a second how to do it. But these holes are slightly undersized. They are 1.75mm, and that is to make sure there's a nice snug fit on this elastic cording, but it's still easy to push through. Now you can add either some eyelets or some grommets to reinforce these holes, but I actually prefer the minimal look of no hardware and just the cording with the holes. So let me bring you in and I'll show you how to assemble it. Okay, so I've got my leather kind of facing long ways away from me, and I'm going to use this 2mm elastic cord to string through the holes. Now you want to start with one of these outside holes, so not the middle section, but one of the exterior. And you're going to start by feeding the string through this bottom hole, and then you will bring it back through this top hole so that you have the loose end on the inside of the journal, and that's going to be the same thing on this side as well. So what you do is, like I said, you just take the elastic and string it through. Now, like I said, this hole is slightly undersized, but you want that so that it's got some nice holding power. So I'm going to pull this through, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 inches on the outside. Now you are going to have some excess that you're going to have to cut off, which is fine. Now I'm just going to string this back through to the inside. All right, there we go. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to cut the string with about 4 or 5 inches on the end of this side. So we're going to go back through this bottom hole. Now you may want to get an awl to help you with this because, like I said, these holes are slightly undersized. There we go. Now I'm going to pull it taut. You don't want it super tight, but I am going to pull it taut. We're just threading it back through this top hole. There we go. Okay, now you're going to take these 2 loose ends and you want to tie them in the middle. Okay, now the journal cover is lifting a little bit off the table. That's fine because you want it to be tight enough to hold the journals in place, or the signatures in place. So I'm going to hold off on trimming this excess for now, and then we are going to go through the middle. Same process. Start with this bottom hole. All right, now on this one, you are going to want to loop. You want to create a long enough string so that you have a loop that goes through this middle hole, and that's what's going to be what holds your journal closed. So I'm just going to take an awl and poke it through there. Poke it through the hole. This bit can be a little fussy. So I've got it started. So now I'm just going to take my awl and pull it through. Now the length of this loop is up to you. It's going to be based on how tight you want your journal or how many signatures you have in here. So I am just going to fold this over. Actually, it goes this way. I'm going to fold this over and just kind of check it to see if it's long enough. And I feel like that's a little bit loose, so I am actually going to shorten it just a hair. And all I need to do is just pull one side. Okay. Now I'm going to trim it off over here. Same process, bottom hole back through the top hole. All right, now you just want to tie a knot right in the middle. And you want to have a fair amount of tension. You want to try to get a similar amount of tension to the one you've already tied. Otherwise, you're going to have some loose strings. There we go. Okay, now we can use this other string that we already cut. Same process. Bottom hole. And you can use an awl to just kind of help you get it started. All right, we might have tied that last one a little bit too tight, so it shouldn't be potato chipping like that. So let's loosen this one up just a hair. Okay, then we'll tie this last one. Again, you want a similar amount of tension. Now I'm comfortable with that. This is kind of a jumbled mess, so I am going to just trim off the excess on these cords. Now you can use a lighter to seal off these edges on the elastic. Mine is in the house, so we're just going to move forward with this. Now you want to take your signatures, and the signatures, you can kind of see there's like this center point. So you want to take the signature, open it up to the center point, and then you just take the end with the knot, and you want to slip it through the outside one. And I've already trimmed off the edges on mine, snipped off the edges so that they're rounded. That's an optional thing. You can do that if you want to, or you don't have to. So then you're going to take the center cord, loop it through, and then finally the last one, you're going to take this last cord and just slip it through. Okay, so now that we have our signatures in, you are just going to fold it closed like so and loop the elastic around it. Now it is a little loose right now, you can kind of see, but this as it wears in will, you know, calm down a little bit and it will conform to the signatures. Now what you can do is you can weight it down overnight and kind of put something heavy on it and just kind of allow the leather to mold to the signatures and become a journal. Now this would be great with some personalization, some customization. You know, I think it would be really great just kind of like right here to have somebody's name or a scripture or something like that. So this gives you that high-end look you're going for, and quite honestly, it took about 10 seconds to cut this out on the laser. So, and assembly, again, super quick. So I think this would be really good to add to your product line if this is something you sell. Obviously, it wouldn't be something you want to add if you sell something completely different from this, but most of what I sell is utilitarian in nature, and so this just fits right in with my product line. Now, one other thing you can do to snazz these up a bit, you can add some charms. Like this is the very first notebook I ever made, and I have something that says, "Feed me tacos and tell me I'm pretty." And so you just, when you're assembling it, you just want to loop this on to the middle string where the loop is, and then you would just have a charm kind of hanging from your notebook, which I think would be another great way to dress this up. Now you could have some charms that you allow customers to choose from, and you could add it on site or before you ship it, and that would be another great add-on and another upsell for you as well. Okay, for the third option, you've got Leatherette. Now you could make the exact same journal we made as the leather and make it out of Leatherette. There are some things that you want to consider though. One is you want to make sure you're getting your leatherette from a reputable supplier. So when you're sourcing it, I would probably avoid Amazon on this one because you want to make sure that you are getting a laser safe leatherette. Now, in the past, I have sourced my leatherette from JDS Industries or Johnson Plastics Plus. You can actually get it from Houston Acrylic as well. However, I have recently switched my leatherette supplier to Lone Star Adhesives. Now, I am not sponsored by them. They have no idea I'm talking about them on my channel, but I have found that their leatherette is much, much higher quality. It's also felt backed. So instead of like this leatherette is kind of like this gray rubber look, which is really not the look I'm going for with my customers. Theirs is felt backed, so it's black and it's got a nice feel to it. It's also a thicker, just better quality product. But I did try out the leatherette for you guys, and this I think will work fine. You may want to reinforce these holes with some eyelets or some grommets because I don't know how long leatherette would hold up to everyday use. This is also a little flimsier than the real leather that we used, so keep that in mind. But this is a really good budget-friendly option for something that maybe is a little nicer than the wood option, but not quite the handmade full-on leather look. Now, honestly, I would, if I were doing Leatherette journals, I would probably just pick up some Leatherette journals from a supplier like Lone Star. These engrave beautifully, and then when you are done lasering them, all you have to do is spray some LA Awesome on it, wipe it off. It cleans up really nicely. And these are just a really nice quality, and you don't have to go through the trouble of making something. Now, the reason I like this style is because it's refillable, and customers just, they really do like to be able to refill their journals. And so by putting signatures in this one, it's very easy to just replace them when they run out. The only downside of buying the pre-made Leatherette journals is that it's a one-time use thing. So when a customer fills this one up, they have to get another one. But that's good for you because they can come back to you and make another purchase instead of just getting the restock of the signatures on this one. All right, so now that you've seen all three options, I am curious, which of these was your favorite? Are you team wood, are you team leather, or are you team leatherette? Drop a comment down below and let me know. Okay, let's talk about what really matters if you're making these to sell. Who buys them and how I would price and position each one. Because the materials you choose doesn't just change how it looks, it changes the customer you're targeting. So wood notebooks are my go-to entry-level option. They are inexpensive, they are super eye-catching, and you've got more options in design with a wood notebook than you do in the other options because you can engrave it, you can also cut it out, you can add some color behind it. So there's a lot more possibilities with the wood option as far as customizing it or making it unique. Now, I would usually price these between $18 and $25 depending on the materials, the engraved time, the intricacy of the design. Now, they are perfect for markets, for teacher gifts, or really for just somebody, casually shopping. So the big trick with these is personalization. If you can add a monogram or a name or anything that's custom, then that increases the perceived value. And I know I sound like a broken record on this, but when you can add something custom or personalized to anything you make, you can charge more for it. So I'm probably going to say that until I am blue in the face, but it really is true. So now the Leatherette is a great mid-tier option, and they are sleek, they look professional, they're easy to produce, they're great for batching, and they're also great for corporate gifts, for wedding party gifts, or just gifts in general, because quite honestly they are beautiful and super versatile and functional. Now, I would typically charge between $25 and $40 depending on the size and the type of engraving on this one. And then finally, there is the real leather. Now, I have been calling it real leather throughout this entire video. Most people are going to refer to it as genuine leather, but I actually learned in this process that genuine leather is actually like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to like real leather goods. So I bought, it was an economy hide, but it's not genuine leather. I think it's, top grain, but it just has some imperfections in it. So there you go. Maybe you learned something today too. But so this is the real leather, and this is going to be your premium piece. They take a little bit more time but that's what makes them special. And I would price these anywhere from $60 to $120, depending on the quality of the hide, depending on any sort of engraving, any sort of customization. Now this obviously takes more leather because it's got the extra flap. Now that doesn't mean that you can charge a whole lot more for it, but you know, if you're adding charms, there's just so many possibilities with this that would go into how you price it. Now these are great for high-end boutiques, for groomsmen or bridesmaids gifts, or somebody just looking for a really nice quality product. Okay, so even though all three of these options are technically just notebooks, they serve completely different markets, from the casual impulse buy to the shopper who's looking for some luxury gifts. Now, offering versions of the same core product in different varieties is a great way to reach new customers without constantly reinventing your product line. They're also evergreen products, so they are great for year round because they're not tied to a season or a holiday. So they would, you know, people are always looking for journals or something to write things down, or a great inexpensive gift. So these will work year round. And you can offer them at varying price points, which makes them a powerhouse made to sell product. So if you are interested in any more made to sell project ideas, I will leave the link to the full playlist in the description and in the pinned comments. And if you're interested in making any of these designs, I do have the files available on my website. And if you got any new ideas from this video, please hit that like button, poke that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future tips, and I will see you on the next one.